Hello everyone, it's me LinkingX2 back again with more MSI content. Today we're covering the drafts in the series between PSG and RNG. So yeah, the first semi-final of this year's MSI. So yeah, let's get right into the drafts. So let's get right into the first game, and more so in the first bans. On RNG side we see the ban of the Zoe and the Thresh. So these are two target bans against Maple and Kaiwing. Maple being one of the better Zoes in the world. Yeah, you hear a lot of pros talking about him, and he's fairly good. On the other side here we have the Thresh for Kaiwing. He was a Thresh one trick in the past and is probably the best Thresh at the tournament. Thresh also being quite a good pick at the moment, so yeah, that being banned. It's a fairly simple thing. Next to that we see the Nocturne. Nocturne here against Hanabi and also against PSG as a whole. So PSG here is the underdog, and underdogs, and they can make use of the Nocturne and especially his ultimate to create chaos, and in that chaos maybe sneak out a teamfight win and snowball from there. So yeah, in most cases the Nocturne is a pick for the weaker team to abuse the unorganization that can come in at certain points. So yeah, if you're the better team and have a ban open, just ban out the Nocturne and get rid of the annoyance from there. On the other side we have a Varus, a Lucian and a Renekton being banned. So I have an issue with two of these, just the Lucian here versus Xiao. That's fairly simple, he's very strong on it and you don't want to deal with it, so that's fine. Varus, there are counters, it's not OP, so... But yeah, we will talk about Varus along the ride for the next few drafts, so yeah. And the Renekton, similar story. It's going to be banned again and again, so yeah, I'm going to mold over that in a few minutes. But again, these two, they are not OP, they have counters, and RNG is not really even a team that has like one tricks on these champions, so yeah. Don't ban that, man. Don't do that. This leaves open Lee Sin for Xiaohu. This is even greater an issue than any of these others, because it can be flexed into mid lane, and it is fairly strong in the top lane at the moment, with AP junglers like the Morgana especially, and even the Rumble to a certain degree. They can really snowball top lane and have a very strong early to mid game. But yeah, that's more an issue than these two champions. On the other side here, PSG answering with Rivers Udyr, something that he's played all tournament long, and Kaiser for Doggo. So the Kaiser could be a pick away here from Galda, but Doggo also played some Kaiser games, but yeah, not really a fan of it. I think his Tristana is way better. So yeah, and also the Udyr, I mean, there are two open AP junglers, Rumble and Morgana, so you can't really pick away two at the same time here. I mean, you could, and then Morgana support, Rumble jungle, something like that, right? But they choose to not pick either of these and give RNG the choose of the litter. RNG with way prioritizing the Morgana, so PSG can know that this is coming in. This is double effective, right, for the like multiple effective, right, for this end with the Black Shield versus the Udyr overall in the 1v1 matchup, and then yeah, for way a comfort pick that he has played a lot over the course of MSI. Next to the Morgana we see the Tristana. Tristana, comfort pick for Gala also, he's played a lot, it's a strong pick in the meta, so yeah, it's understandable. It's not his strongest champion, but versus the Kaiser there's obviously the immediate advantage in the 1v1 and how the champions operate and so on. Yeah, so RNG here looking very strong with their first three picks. PSG, yeah, quite a few question marks. To these question marks comes the Gnar, so Gnar versus Lee Sin, that's a bit of an iffy matchup. Lee Sin can certainly yeah, fuck him up, but now if he gets ahead early with the range advantage and then the Mega Gnar transformation, certainly very strong in the 1v1s as well, and then it's easier to offer more in the team fights. But considering that PSG usually does not spend too much time in top lane and support Hanabi, Gnar versus Lee Sin from behind, that's not good, it doesn't feel good as well. So yeah, that's another question mark here to the PSG draft, like concerning their playstyle. then we move into the bans. Let's move to RNG side first. The Galio and then the Nautilus. Nautilus being banned here against Skywing, has played it a lot, but more so for the bot lane synergy with the Kai'Sa, very strong 2v2. Even though there's a Black Shield and Nautilus versus Black Shield, yeah, that's iffy. Still, I mean, you can do that, it's not a huge deal. There's nothing really that stands out to be banned next to it. So yeah, that's fine. The Galio though, very huge question mark. Why ban Galio? It's not a good champion in the support position, and in the mid lane it's even worse. So, I mean, yes, Galio with Gnar, Galio with Udyr, there are synergies there. You have a Black Shield, you have a Lee Sin. It doesn't matter. Ban makes no sense. It's wasted. On the other side, Rel versus Ming. It's fine. He has played it a lot over the course of the LPL, and with the Tristana, that's a very strong 2v2. And it would also add on the dive and the engage that RNG has drafted. It's also certainly strong against the Kai'Sa with a short range, so yeah, that makes sense. TF also against Crying, one, if not the only TF player at the tournament. More pick potential for them. Solid bans. That's good. Moving on to the R4 pick after the ban phase, it's Leona for Skywing. Leona here with the Kai'Sa also, yeah, similar story like as the Nautilus, right? Plasma appliance, strong early games, strong base damage. Fairly simple. Same issue also versus Morgana. She really, yeah, likes to press E against you. So that's something. RNG here then, picking the Braum for Ming. If you look at the field, many supports are being banned. And yeah, it's one of the fewer tank supports that's open. It also answers the engage and melee champions that PSG has picked for themselves, right? With his passive and his ultimate. That's something with Tristana and her Q. They can also easily proc it, and then they have follow up with the Lee Sin Q and the Morgana Q on the stunned target. Everything works well together. That's good. I mean, overall, Braum is a very strong champion. It's being undervalued quite a lot. So yeah, it's good to see it come out. Orianna for Crying. We see it a million times. We're going to see it a million more times. Here versus PSG. It is a bit more of an aggressive option than the Victor would be, right? Victor a bit more defensive, but certainly also effective against the type of champions PSG has. But the the Orianna with something like the Lee Sin, obviously a bit more of an aggressive choice and a bit harder to execute defensively. PSG rounding their comp up with the Azir. Azir getting a bit more pressure here in mid lane than any Victor or something like that again. And for Maple, it is a champion that he's also certainly familiar with. PSG overall having quite a bit of good team fighting. They do have some issues early on in terms of laning powers and item spikes. And the mid game also, if they're not really rolling high, it's like not really all that bright. But they certainly have the late game potential to pop off. If they can get there, it's fairly hard to see. RNG has very strong early aggression that can be snowballed due to the nature of their champions, right? Tristana and Lee Sin are fairly known for snowballing, and they have then champions like the Orianna, Braum and the Morgana, all three of them, to really support these two to really pop up further and further. So yeah, overall I give the advantage to RNG, and yeah, what a surprise, they also win the game. So yeah, they move up in the series 1-0. Yeah, so move to the next draft here. So we see here the first draft between the two. So let's start with the bans as usual. So PSG here on the blue side banning out the Lucian, the Varus and the Lee Sin. So these are two bans that are mainly targeting Zhao. So yeah, that's understandable. He has been one of the better performers of RNG. Yes, Galar has been popping off here and there, but Zhao has been more consistent and more relevant for the extended period of the game, not only the later stages. On the other side, Thresh ban, Zoe ban and the Renekton. The Renekton, just like the Varus, there are more team focused bans, not really player centric. The Thresh obviously versus Skywing and the Zoe versus Maple. Yeah, Maple a very good Zoe player. probably one of the few best in the world. It's hard to say, obviously, because yeah, we have not seen Showmaker and Showbiz Zoe in quite some time. But yeah, he has been performing on the champion very good for a couple of years. Then we see the Udyr being here first pick, being higher priority than the Rumble and the Morgana, which is a little bit strange. As yeah, the AP junglers do clear faster, but I guess the skirmishing with Udyr is a bit easier and yeah, a bit more forgiving in the way he can fight. Then we see obviously the Kai'Sa for Gala, one of his main champions. But RNG is not really afraid to trade the Kai'Sa for the Tristana, but they're also fine with this matchup, so yeah, they don't really care. It's just something they pass around depending on the game. Then versus the Udyr, obviously coming in as a soft counter pick, the Morgana. Also the champion Wei has done certainly well, and so yeah, RNG quite happy here with their draft. And obviously here Udyr for River, nothing PSG is really unhappy with either. They lock in the bot lane for themselves, the Tristana and the Nautilus. So Nautilus versus the Morgana obviously doesn't feel too nice. Versus, of course, with the Black Shield, that's a huge issue. But they're kind of denying the combination of Nautilus and Kai'Sa in the bot lane, which is certainly very strong. Also, they lock in Tristana as a counterpick to the Kai'Sa, and yeah, having good range advantage and decent turret destruction abilities. And also over the course of the tournament, we have seen that Doggo is quite comfortable with the champion. So passing it up for RNG's R3 pick, they're picking now a champion for Xiao. Nothing too special here with the Gnar. It is something that he's fairly comfortable with. He has played it all year long in the LPL, and now at MSI again. So yeah, that's RNG getting high comfort picks for themselves. And yeah, to secure Gnar's comfort, they're also approaching the next ban phase here to set him up with a few bans, not only for Gnar and securing him a good lane matchup, but also on the one side banning away a few of Hanabi's champions. On the other side, PSG does take a different approach. They ban out quite a few champions here for Ming. And yeah, to be honest, Ming has been a bit on the under the radar because of the pop-off performances and the kills coming in for Xiao and Gala. But Ming has been a consistent factor with his roams, setting up all his different laners. So yeah, he's definitely a very, very strong player at the moment. And one of the reasons RNG is so successful, banning out a few of his engage options that also do synergize nicely with the Kai'Sa, is obviously a very smart idea. So coming out of the ban phase here, they lock in Braum for Ming. So that's an interesting pick. We have not seen Braum in a long time, but Braum together with the Morgana, obviously very, very good against these short range melee bruiser champions like the Udyr and like the Nautilus in this case. So yeah, in this case, the Braum comes in quite handily. Obviously with the Kai'Sa, that's a bit more of a defensive lane per se, but they can proc plasma stacks quite easily as well. So yeah, that's still something. Then passing by PSG, they lock in the Nocturne and the Silas, so that's double flex, right? Both can go in either top or mid, so that's a good rotation in this case, as it takes away a bit of the counter pick potential for Crying. But these two champions here fall in a bit of a pickle against the Braum. As I mentioned, melee bruisers or melee fighters versus the Braum, not really all that, not good. Obviously because of the passive, right? His E, Braum's E, the shield, is not doing anything against these two. In this case, it's the passive and his ultimate as well that is really annoying for them. But all the dive here with all PSG's champions, they are really straightforward, liking skirmishes, early aggression, right? Very strong level 6 power spikes. And yeah, they also have decent lane domination against what RNG has selected. Now, RNG here picking Victor for Crying to round up their comp. So their comp being a bit more on the defensive side. Yes, champions like the Gnar and the Kai'Sa would really like to go forward, but Morgana, Braum and Victor they're going backwards. And yeah, even though it's not really their main strategy, their main champion identity, Kalista, yeah, she can somewhat be a backline AD carry as well. With her ultimate, obviously that can also be used defensively in some regard. So, yeah, I would give the advantage here to RNG in this comp. If they can hold out early, right, the champions are not really too strong in the earlier stages, but then later on they're really powerful. But till they get there, PSG has a very strong top lane. Here I assume it's the Nocturne top. Nocturne top versus Gnar, that's a good matchup for him. In the jungle, yes, flat out 1v1. Morgana is doing fine, but taking into consideration the lane matchups, Sylas will have pressure against the Victor. So that's mid lane and top lane Prior for Udyr. And then bot lane Tristana, Nautilus should also have Prior versus Gala and Ming. So 3 lanes of Prior that can, yeah, snowball itself quite handily. So yeah, I'll assume PSG is winning here the early game. And yeah, that's not really too surprising considering that they did. Moving here to the next draft, we can look at the adaptation. So first out, look at the bans here. Did anything change really for RNG? Yes, they did ban the Nocturne now. I have always talked about this. Nocturne is not really a super powerful or super OP pick, but it is a pick that creates a lot of chaos and can really be annoying. And usually for the better team, if you have a free ban here or there, just throw one at the Nocturne if you know the enemy team like plays him or might play him, because it is just so easy to just press R and then, yeah, what do you do? What are you doing? You don't know. So yeah, the chaos that can come after Justice Ultimate, really not needed for you. So yeah, I really like this ban. Also the other two, yeah, ban again the one trick or the very powerful champions here for PSG players. Yeah, and then they, on the other side here, PSG, not missing out on them. They still continue with the Varus ban, and the red side ban on the Renekton also continues. Yes, Renekton with the AP junglers is certainly powerful. Is it the best champion in the game? I don't think so. So yeah, I'm not really too sold on this ban here. But the Lucian versus Xiao, it's still good, still ban worthy. But this lets through the Lee Sin for Xiao. And it's also quite sad. So the question here would be, do you really need to ban the Varus against Gala? And I would say, yeah, probably not. I mean, Varus is strong, but he is a very immobile AD carry. So the AD carries that are being played now, Kai'Sa, Tristana, and shoot. Anyway, these and Xayah, right? These 3 are quite mobile with their ultimates, and they have dashes or something else. Victor doesn't, Varus doesn't have that. So with all the dive that is being drafted as well, I feel Victor is a target that can be, yeah, attacked. But yeah, next to the Lee Sin, on the other side, PSG River again gets his Udyr, and Doggo gets again his Tristana. So nothing too special here. They continue with these comfort and strong picks, but again, Udyr priority over an AP jungler, especially if Lee Sin is picked. So Lee Sin with Rumble, Lee Sin with Morgana, both create a very, very strong 2v2 in the top lane. And yeah, it's really rough for Hanabi here. He can be really dogged down with these 2 champions here. And yeah, it's not surprising that the Morgana comes in. We saw it in the last game. We saw it overall quite a lot for Wei. So yeah, nothing too special. And it's good pick. It's a good pick, right? The Black Shield, especially here with the Lee Sin, and then also with the other pick here, the Kai'Sa for Gala. Yeah, obviously sets them up to dive in easier. Just mentioning here the Kai'Sa into the Tristana. That's a bit strange. That's a bit strange, I have to say. I would not really recommend this as it's a counter pick in some stages of the game. Yes, later on, Tristana usually goes for a more tank shred build, while Kai'Sa goes for a more dive build, so something like the Collectors being built by Gala quite often. Obviously in these cases Gala has an easier approach in the 1v1 than the Tristana, but still Tristana with the E and with her R can just say no to any dive approach from this champion, and then the outrange factor comes in. So yeah, I'm not a fan of this. I think I've gotten that point across. Then we get the Nautilus pick away again. So PSG has the same 3 champions here, if I'm not mistaken, and we have the same issue here with the bot lane and the jungler Morgana being very effective against the black shield, with her black shield against the Nautilus. Going into the next ban phase, PSG same bans, banning out Ming again. Nothing too surprising, as you can again attack his champion pool, and why not? I mean, the Braum, Ming is more of an engaged player, like many supports are at the moment. So yeah, a champion like Braum that is more follow-up engaged and more peel, not really in his, yes, it is in his wheelhouse, but it's not really his comfort, his player identity. So they are not really bothered with him picking Braum again, so that's not why, that's not banned here. On the other side, RNG banning out the Gnar. For Hanabi, Gnar against Lee Sin. Not the best matchup, but if he gets some pressure from his jungler and gets set up early, the range advantage is there and it's annoying. And then Mega Gnar obviously is, that's an issue for Lee Sin. I'm not really sure about the Galio. Not really a fan of Galio at the moment. He's also getting nerfed constantly by Riot Games. So yeah, don't touch this champion. I like him, but he's not good at the moment, so that's something. So then we come out of the ban phase and we pick an Aatrox. So yeah, I'm scratching my head here. Aatrox versus Lee Sin. That's not a good matchup. I'm assuming the Lee Sin has hands, right? Aatrox against Morgana, also not too good. So yeah, I'm not really sure what this champion is doing here. I mean, there are some bans for top laners, but yeah, I mean, even though Set is not meta, Set versus Lee Sin, maybe. And Set ult is usually also faster than Morgana can Black Shield, unless it's super obvious. I'm not a fan of this champion here. On the other side, RNG pick their few last champions here. Again, the Braum, nothing too surprising. And yeah, Ryan picks his millionth time the Orianna. Also not surprising. So yeah, let's see these very straightforward picks that RNG is going to elect always in this spot here. I feel like there's no real reason to deviate from this. I mean, you could argue for picking Victor here versus these engaged champions here that run into you, but Victor is way more defensive and way more backwards than the Orianna, as Orianna can, with her ult, putting hit on Lee Sin, for example, can play a bit more forward and a bit more aggressive in the way she approaches teamfights. As such, yeah, she is more on theme with other champions here on that comp. But Victor would also have fitted in, right? Morgana and Braum really, yeah, do not mind Victor on that team. So yeah, there are two options, and considering that Crying plays Orianna way better than his Victor, so yeah, that's the reasoning behind that. Maybe locking in his Victor, then there's an issue here. So Victor against some parts of the enemy champions is good, but with these on his team, he's not really, really liking that too much. In this case here for PSG, there's no real hard argument for Victor or Orianna. Orianna would have been way better. So yeah, that could in retrospect also be a pick away then from Crying, but I don't think that was what they were thinking about. So here, PSG is a bit all over the place. Like the Victor is not really a fan of his teammates. The Aatrox is not really powerful enough, and especially can be kited and dealt with by RNG quite easily. Then the other three here, they're again decent champions. There's nothing, like, they have not changed from the last draft, right? So they're still potent. And RNG here also have the same draft besides the top laner. In this case, because of the changes PSG made and the adaptation in the ban phase that RNG did, I would have to give the edge to RNG. And well, that is maybe a bit biased because I know the results. But well, I think, as I mentioned, the PSG comp is just all over the place. They want to go there, there, and there. Others want to go there and there. So yeah, what are you doing? These champions are hurting each other. They're fighting for the direction. Who is the dominant force? Who gives the direction? And this means that some champions won't be able to fully utilize their kit. I talked about this a million times. So yeah, it's a bit shitty here what they did with their R3, R4, and R5 pick. Even though before that it was looking quite good, besides maybe of some of the ban aspects. But here with RNG going up 2-1 to the match point here, maybe PSG can get it back, maybe they cannot. So yeah, let's get right into it. On the red side, on the blue side here, PSG banning again 2 top laners against Xiao. This means here this time they obviously don't have to ban the Renekton, but they continue with the Varus bans. So maybe they have seen something that I don't. Maybe Varus, like with 3 Infinity Edges, is super OP or whatnot. I don't know. But I think the champion is a bit overvalued here, especially if you say he's so strong that you're banning him on red side. Then why do you ban him on blue side? And you're not picking up the champion themselves. That's strange. RNG here continuing with the 2 target bans and then the Renekton red side. I mean, I think I saw him once on blue side being first pick, and I think he did fairly well. But yeah, that's a small sample size. Maybe this with Renekton here is like a bit similar to what we saw with Pantheon in the past, where he was like 99 to 100% ban rate, and people weren't even trying counters or anything against him. They were just flat out banning him. And Pantheon at that time was really strong. I think Renekton does have its advantages, but their advantages are coming from other parts of his team comp, and not only from himself, right? The champion itself has not changed over the patches, right? So yeah, that's a huge question mark for me here. PSG also again valuing the Udyr over the AP junglers, so yeah, that's the same stuff. RNG here, this time they're prioritizing Ming's champion pool and get him the Nautilus here early on. Next to that they get the Morgana, and that's what I mean. They're completely fine with trading the Tristana and the Kalista. I mean, they pick Kai'Sa themselves into a losing match, into the Tristana, which should be a losing matchup in most cases, or in isolation at least. But yeah, then they prioritize here something nice for Ming once in a while, so that he won't get banned out again. On the other side, Tristana again for Doggo. Look, I mean, if you looked at the games, he is like completely popping up. Like I think PSG, like maybe they should get him. Unified is really good if you watch the PCS. He's very good, but I mean, Doggo is popping off. So yeah, he's making an argument for himself. Probably will be like bought by a Chinese team and then will be like in 16th place or something for the next 2 years. Anyway, let's hope that doesn't happen. But yeah, it is really super good. So it's Tristana. I don't mind that. I don't mind that. And I think they know Gala is going to pick the Kai'Sa again, and that's still a good matchup. Let's mention the Rel here just a second. So Rel versus the Nautilus. It's okay. It's okay. It's not amazing, but it's doing his job. Again, the issue is with the Morgana. Morgana, I mean, she does so much. Like, she has pick potential with her Q. She has decent team fighting with her ultimate and stopwatch, and then the damage obviously from Leandris. The clear speed is insane, and then the black shield. I mean, you pick Morgana support mainly for the black shield. I mean, yeah, the Q is good, but the black shield is what's really super strong. So yeah, the jungle Morgana like brings all of that to the team. Obviously, it's a bit harder to pull off because you have to be a bit more supportive in the way you play the pick, which is not something most junglers like have in themselves. So we have seen quite a few Morganas fail that, but well, Wei certainly is pulling it off. And then yeah, Gala picking Kai'Sa again into a matchup that's not really good. But I guess if you're good like him, then you can do that. I don't know. We've talked about that a lot. I don't like it, but he sees something there. Yeah, maybe he's wrong. but it's certainly working out. And with the Nautilus this time, it's certainly stronger in the 2v2, right? Tristana getting hooked once is certainly her death. Yeah, that's that. In the ban phase here, we see a couple of other strange bans. So Rice and the Galio, they're both not good. I mean, Rice certainly got hit again and again, and the new items, I mean, he does a good chunk of damage, but with the change to Seraphs, he has gotten worse and worse over the years. So yeah, why? And also, your champions are good against him. Like, maybe your AD carry doesn't really like him, but then you can pick something on R4 or R5 that counters Rise. On the other side, banning Nocturne themselves. Why? Zhao, who is not going to play it. And the Jace, whatever. It's whatever, right? We see the Nara being picked here for Zhao. That's something that I would have expected here to be banned. I mean, they banned it before and now they dropped it. Maybe this is something they feel it's not needed anymore. I think it's random that you drop the ban out of nowhere without any like adaptation coming in instead. So that's something. They answer this with the Silas and the Gangplank. So this is two things that could come up against the Gnar, right? Silas stealing Gnar ult is dealing immense amounts of damage. I think like on average like 500-600 damage, depending obviously on item build and so on, but it's doing a shit ton of damage. So yeah, that's something. And then Gangplank obviously on blue side versus Gnar, that's a good matchup, or like a decent one at least. But yeah, remembering how the games went, RNG is certainly spending more time topside than PSG is. So if this matchup's all that great in the end, left to be it's an open question. And then RNG, yeah, they're really thinking what creative pick do we use here to round up our... No, we're not thinking, we're just picking Morgana. We're just picking Orianna again for crying. So yeah, they certainly then have nice sources of magic damage and everything works well together, right? Team fighting is certainly a possibility that draft can do. It's still worse than PSG's team fight, but at least something. The Orianna ult obviously can also be somewhat of a deterrence versus the Silas and the Udyr. But to be honest, like the Orianna, what is this really doing here? She only has like 2 ball carriers, but they are usually way too far away from her. And I think the issue is Orianna and the Kai'Sa both are weak to similar stuff, right? Being outranged fairly easily. And yeah, the Gangplank is doing that, the Tristana is doing that. I think that a Victor pick here could have been a bit better. But obviously the aspect of comfort, right, in such like important games does come into play, and yeah, that's certainly something that RNG and Crying have considered here. So yeah, with this, RNG wins 3-1 the first semi-final. Not really all too surprising, but I have to admit, PSG, they put up a fairly great fight. I obviously do really enjoy this team, so yeah, I'm a bit sad about that. But well, tomorrow we will see Down1 Kia versus Mad Lions. So yeah, that will be interesting. Move here to the other screen. Yeah, tomorrow, as I mentioned, I hope I can do some live reactions to that to these drafts tomorrow. Will certainly be a banger. And then on Sunday, we will have the finals. Probably Down1 Kia versus RNG. I hope I'm not jinxing anything here, but yeah, that will also be a banger. At least I hope. I mean, to be honest, if Mad Lions can like somehow upset Down1 Kia and then move against RNG, I think this will be a very one-sided final. I think this would be something akin to the G2 and Team Liquid year, which was the last MSI, to be honest. So G2 and SKT, they were playing on fairly even level, right? Let's not get into the details. And then TL somehow managed to upset IG, and this caused this dumpster fire of a final, which was very sad. I mean, like, you could argue not even the second best team was in the final if you want to. But anyway, yeah, we see each other tomorrow with these live reactions. Till then, yeah, I hope you stay safe and have a good time.